a complex repair. Give PALS a call today to schedule your next service appointment. 352-414-2984. What? A nationwide warranty, 36 months or 36,000 miles, whichever comes first? PALS looks forward to servicing you and servicing your vehicle. 352-414-2984.
WOCA. Ocala.
Listening to AM Ocala Live, WOCA, The Source, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, broadcasting to you live from the Paddock Mall, streaming live, YouTube Live, WOCA, The Source Radio. As it's time for news bits of news you can choose. We just wrapped up our segment with Life South Community Blood Centers, talking with Galen there. A special thanks to Penn Flooring and Palm Garden Health and Rehabilitation Center, two proud sponsors of that segment. As we're now into news bits here, as we are looking at the idea here that's come through out of article in Tampa. It says, taking a look at Florida's Phase 2 reopening. Everything we've been talking about from yesterday was the idea of Phase 1. Phase 1 of Florida's reopening is set to begin Monday with some restaurants and retail stores opening on a limited capacity. But what will Phase 2 entail? And when will it start allowing for businesses like bars, gyms, and salons to open? Which, in lieu of Marion County, if our listening ship here was County Commission talking about already kind of getting us to Phase 2 and moving on. It's a case-by-case or county-by-county basis of that. Now, what does that mean? It says, Governor Ron DeSantis' Reopen Florida Task Force is recommending bars, nightclubs, and other businesses could reopen under the Phase 2 parts, as those businesses which have been closed since April 3rd, statewide shutdown, would be allowed to operate at 50% capacity. Gyms would be allowed to open up at 75% capacity. And then the restaurants under Phase 2 could also bump up to 75% capacity. That would be followed by salons and barbershops being allowed to open with limitations. The big question is, when will Phase 2 start? The governor emphasized the importance of continuing social distancing and wearing face masks. He said he does not expect it to take months to fully reopen the state. He's thinking it will be measured in weeks. DeSantis said, in order to move through each phase, testing will be key, and we will be keeping a close eye on the state's COVID-19 test positivity rate as that goes through. So, and the idea of that and everything else behind it. So interesting nonetheless. As we were talking a little bit about our county wanting to do that, as we think about statewide, some of the big things that have been talked about, for example, with some of the parks, considering that spring break and this time of year, which is huge for the travel from other parts of the country and the world to our state, to take place with Disney World and Universal Studios. It says Disney World and Disneyland reopenings are still uncertain. Here's what the parks could look like when they do. It says Disney World and Disneyland have been closed, obviously, since mid-March because of the coronavirus. When do they reopen? They could look and feel very different, though, if they do. It says they also may not they may not reopen at the same time. It says Walt Disney World in Florida could reopen within weeks under guidelines recommended in that state. Disneyland may not reopen for months under California's more conservative plan. As we were talking about California now closing their beaches and stuff like that and kind of reverting a little bit. Disney's overseas parks also may take more time to open. A UBS financial analysis predicted last week that the parks would not reopen before January, but a Disney spokesperson wouldn't comment on the timing or the details of plans to reopen any of the company's theme parks. The reopening of attractions, such as the theme parks, will be tied to the resumption of non-essential travel. Southwest Airlines CEO Gary Kelly told CNBC on Tuesday that Disney parks would play a role in getting travelers back on commercial flights. And travelers, quote, need to have something to be able to do when they get there. So Disney World needs to open back up. Restaurants need to open back up. A local government economic recovery task force in Orange County, Florida, recommended guidelines for reopening Walt Disney World in Orlando, similar to the guidelines provided by the White House Coronavirus Task Force. So what would Disney World reopening look like? If Disney World follows the Orange County Task Force recommendations, here's a little bit of what the reopened park might look like. In Phase 1, the park could operate at half the capacity. In Phase 2, at 75% capacity. Now, that's one right there where it's like, man, I would like to be at Disney World if there's only 50% capacity. That would be a blast considering how crowded it gets. Even 75% capacity. Employees would wear masks. Staff temperatures would be checked prior to their shifts, and anyone with a temperature of at least 100.4 degrees would obviously be sent home. Employees with any flu-like symptoms are required to stay at home. Touchless hand sanitizer dispensers will be placed at all ticketing entry areas, turnstiles, and each entry and exits for rides and attractions. Railings and surfaces would be wiped down regularly. Additionally, queues for rides and attractions would maintain social distancing with markers placed 6 feet apart. Employees 65 and older would be encouraged to stay home in both phases 1 and 2. Staff would also wipe down surfaces just at random. The group also made recommendations for restaurants, hotels, and retail establishments that would likely apply to Disney World, thinking about Disney Springs. Restaurant, hotel, resort, retail guidelines also would apply. As they say, according to the task force, restaurants could operate at 50% capacity in Phase 1, 75% capacity in Phase 2. Tables would be spaced 6 feet apart, and employees would wear face masks and gloves if they work behind the counter. Staff temperatures checks would be required, and menus would be disposable. In hotels, guests would see sneeze guards, checkout counters, mini bars would not be stocked, and coffee makers, coffee cups, and glasswares would be removed from guest rooms. Room keys and bell carts would be sanitized after each use. No conferences would take place under Phase 1 or Phase 2. Swimming pools would be open. In retail, all entry doors would be propped open and automated. Distancing markers would be placed at checkout counters, obviously, and employees would wear masks, face masks, undergo temperature checks, and, of course, countertops, railings, and door surfaces would likely be wiped down every hour. In movie theaters, no more than 4 people per group would be seated in Phase 1, and it would at least 2 seats between each party. In Phase 2, no more than 6 people per group would be seated, with at least 1 seat between each party. On Wednesday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was the outline for the first phases of reopening the state's economy. And Josh D'Amora, the president of Walt Disney World Resort, is on the governor's Reopen Florida Task Force, and as of Wednesday, Florida has more than the cases of 33,000, obviously over 1,200 deaths. And as that goes, that's the expectation for Disney World. And I guess for Disney fans, and the idea of the CEO being on that Reopen Task Force is a good sign that we could probably see within the next coming weeks Disney World to be opened back up. It makes me wonder, though, how does that work with the capacity? And how does it work with turning people away? Or at what certain point does that get implemented to where when the park opens, you only have so many people go in at a time, but then once it meets that capacity, then what do the other people do who can't get in? Do they stay and wait till other people leave to then go in? that seems like the logistics of that are pretty difficult. And I've been wondering that it's a little bit easier to understand the turning of tables with a restaurant, the idea of capacity. But if you've got people who are waiting in line for a table, they just grab it and wait until another table's up because they're just not seating the restaurant. But how does that work for a theme park? How does that work when you have the expectations of huge capacities for crowds? But then at what point, how does it work with the logistics to only allow 50% of the park to be filled each day when the weather's as gorgeous as it is and people are looking for something to do? How does that work? So very, very interesting altogether. And it's just kind of crazy how that can all play out. Now, as far as some of the other theme parks, it says the company that owns Universal Theme Park around the world says it's delaying the construction of the fourth theme park in Florida, and that the opening of the Nintendo theme park in Japan will be pushed back by a few months, obviously. Comcast CEO Brian Roberts said Thursday that the company was delaying construction of the fourth park at Orlando Universal. The Epic Universe theme park was announced last year with great fanfare. And they say that with the company's U.S. theme parks been closed since mid-March. The lockdown orders began, obviously, and the governors across the U.S. in an effort to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Company officials said on Thursday they gave no indication, however, when they would reopen or when furloughed workers would be able to return to work. The theme park revenue for the company in the first quarter of 2020 dropped by almost a third to $869 million compared to the same time period in 2019 when it was at $1.2 billion. Comcast purchased NBC Universal almost a decade ago. During that time, company officials said Comcast has put more money into the theme parks than any other part of the company. That investment had paid for the Harry Potter themed land rides based on other franchises such as Fast and the Furious. The fourth park in Orlando will be the biggest investment the Comcast NBC Universal has made in the theme park business. Originally scheduled to open in 2023, it will have a park, hotels, restaurants, shops. Comcast executives did not say how long the construction would be postponed, but the company's theme park team is focused on putting in the right protocols and infrastructure as such. And as that moves through, still no indication of when they would be looking to open their parks back up, so to speak, in the idea of that, as that's a big part of everything else going on to it, and yeah. That's how it goes. We're going to take a short little break. When we come back, we'll round out a little bit more news to chat about. You're listening to 96.3 FM, 1370 AM The Source. And as we are broadcasting to you live from the Paddock Mall, streaming live, YouTube Live, WOC at The Source Radio, my thoughts are wondering, too, when we get news of the Paddock Mall, when which they'll open. We'll let you guys know, too. But I'd like to see them get open. See more people walk past the window. But we're going to take a short little break. We'll be back right after this.
Hey folks, you said you wanted more BOGO, more buy one, get one free deals at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens. Now Bob Wines has them for you. Check the ad, but here are just a few. Confederate Jasmine, regularly $9.99, buy one, get one free. Red Fountain Grass, regularly $19.95, buy one, get one free. Same for blueberry bushes, also on BOGO. And it's crepe myrtle time, of course. Bob has the biggest selection around. Choose from a whole array of colors, prices starting at just $24.99. And if you buy dark red, white, or pink, you buy one and get one for half price. Same for all shade and flowering trees. An enormous selection to choose from, and they're all buy one, get one at half price, with prices starting as low as $19.99 on some trees that are almost 4 feet tall. Check us out, then come on over to Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, Southeast 38th Street, daily till 4:30. And of course, you get free curbside delivery. Yes, we're open in the same blooming place since 1952.
Each morning, we wake up thankful to live in a free nation with liberty and justice for all. But sometimes those liberties can be put in jeopardy, and you may have questions about what to do or who to call. Let Doc Blanchard of Blanchard, Miriam, Adele, and Kirkland help you find the answers. Attorneys at law since 1974 and located in downtown Ocala. If you have legal issues, don't go it alone. Call 352-732-7218. Blanchard, Miriam, Adele, and Kirkland, helping protect your liberties every day.
Are you a medical provider that doesn't like to settle for the same boring scrubs? Scrub Paradise in Ocala has a wide selection of top brand scrubs with embroidery available and the newest medical shoes and accessories. Every medical provider should look as great as the care they provide. Scrub Paradise is just off Easy Street next to Shoe Carnival in Ocala. Stop by today or give them a call at 352-873-4368. That's 352-873-4368.
Hey, this is Matt from Crossroad Auto Sales. I want to invite you to come over and check out our vehicles. All of our vehicles at Crossroad Auto Sales go through a rigorous 100-point safety inspection. We work with most outside finance companies, and we even have in-house financing available. Stop by today at 1800 Northwest 10th Street or give me a call at 690-6695. That's 690-6695. Crossroad Auto Sales. We won't leave you stranded at the crossroad.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
You're listening to AIM Ocala Live, WOCA The Source. We're back and doing news bits here as we get close to the top of the 9 o'clock hour. Now, as such, Fauci says, Dr. Anthony Fauci says there is a slight chance of a COVID-19 vaccine, possibly by January. So there's a chance that the U.S. will have a COVID-19 by January 2021. That's an assumption that it's got to be safe, that it's got to be effective, and that we're going to be able to do it quickly. I think each of those are not only feasible, but maybe likely. That's what I mean when I say by January we'll do it, but I can't guarantee it, said Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease. While Fauci is optimistic, he admits that a target date is not set in stone. It says, I've been involved in vaccine work for decades. Not every vaccine that we went after worked. Vaccine deployment is usually measured in years, not months. You know it's likely, or it's like running the quarter mile. You want to run fast, but you have to run the whole quarter mile. And you certainly don't want to put an unsafe or ineffective vaccine out to the populace. And that's coming from Dr. William Schnaffer, the infectious disease specialist at Vanderbilt's University Medical Center. As the research continues, as more than a half of the United States start to partially reopen, but Fauci, as well as other health experts, warn about doing too much too soon. As in, discretion is given to the governors. They know their states. The mayors know their cities. So we want to give them a little wiggle room. But my recommendation is, don't wiggle too much. So on Thursday, Fauci warned that the U.S. could see a second wave of so-called coronavirus, as while reopening process is likely helping the struggling U.S. economy start to rebound from the pandemic. Some say doing so too soon may lead to some problems. But because people are going back to more associations in some places in other parts of the country, it's very likely that there will be future peaks, says Bill Gates, co-founder of Microsoft and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and a big proprietor to the World Health Organization. Meanwhile, a number of companies and researchers around the world have already begun human trials on a possible COVID-19 vaccine. For instance, the University of Oxford stated it has already vaccinated hundreds of people with the experimental vaccine, though it's not approved by regulators. See, that's interesting. And do you get paid to be tested with the vaccine? Interesting. As, for instance, there's another company, BioNTech SE, just completed its initial dosing of a small number of volunteers. It is the only German company so far that have obtained regulatory approval to begin trials for possible vaccines. While many places are working on vaccines, others are working on treatments. As the FDA just approved life-saving medical equipment recently developed by NASA, engineers with the space agency created a ventilator specifically for COVID-19 patients. However, supplies are limited. According to NASA, this is interesting here, the prototype is cheaper and can be made quicker than traditional ventilators. And that's what they're working on. So that's a little interesting there, nonetheless. As it's possible to see a vaccine maybe by January, which I know that'll put a lot of things at ease in lieu of the vaccine, especially I see them saying January only because you'll be getting into the concepts of a flu season. You would see things getting back to a normal level, maybe a spike as things reopen in COVID-19, and then flattens out again in the fall. And then as we start to get into the heart of winter, yeah, I could see January coming out with a vaccine as we start to get into 2021 and what could become of it. As there's been, so much more, news going around about certain conspiracy ideas about them already having vaccines and what it takes for certain conglomerates to have paid for it and what the business will be of it. But nonetheless, it's very, very interesting. As this takes us to the 9 o'clock hour, you're listening to 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. We'll be back right after this.
News. I'm Chris Foster. Joe Biden, for the first time, publicly addressing sexual assault allegations against him, saying in a statement, it didn't happen. A woman who was on then Senator Biden's staff, Tara Reid, says he assaulted her in a hallway in 1993. President Trump says about it,
it could be false accusations. I know all about false accusations. I've been falsely charged numerous times.
Biden's asking for a search of the National Archives to find any record of a complaint his accuser says she made at the time. There are more coronavirus reopenings around the country.
In Texas, you can try going to the multiplex, but they're only going to fill 1 out of every 4 seats. Oregonians can go back to the doctor or even the dentist. And in Pennsylvania, you can golf, you can take out a boat, or even go camping. Up in Vermont, you can go grocery shopping once again at farmers markets.
Fox's Evan Brown. America's listening to Fox News.
Because this is a radio commercial, we can't show you images of our Lowe's associates. We can't show you them rebuilding communities, delivering supplies, or providing support during the crisis we're facing now. But if you look around, they're not hard to spot. 300,000 people working to keep your home working. It's what we've always done and what we'll continue to do. Because home is what unites us. Lowe's, here for you in store or 24/7 at Lowe's.com.
How much money would you like to save just by doing something you're already doing? How about 40%? With Allstate, safe drivers can save 40% just by doing something they're already doing. Driving safe. That's right, 40% just by driving safe. Visit Allstate.com or call a local agent for a quote today and see just how much you can save when you drive safe with Allstate.
Not available in every state. Savings vary based on DriveWise and other safe driving discounts. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Here's time for Farmer Ray.